now. Okay, I think we're ready. I call this meeting to order at 3:12 p.m. on March 18th, 2024. Roll was taken by means of sign-in sheet. Thank you so much for doing that. If you haven't done so, please be sure to do that. We have just one alternate for today. It's Julie Rollins for Estanislao Barrera. Are there any other alternates in the room? Okay, wonderful. We have several guests today. We have Jackie Bach from Office of Academic Affairs and Robert Twilley from ORED, who will be both will be presenting later on today on different topics. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Wonderful. There are no public comments today. The minutes were circulated via email from our February 20th meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes? Okay. Are there any corrections, discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. All those against, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, the minutes from our February 20th meeting have been passed. Dear Senators, I hope that you had a restful yet productive spring break. Since our last meeting, the Faculty Senate leadership was involved with several important initiatives. Maintaining instruction during faculty absence. Vice President Tyrone and I have engaged in preliminary discussions with various units within the administration about developing a policy for maintaining course instruction during periods of prolonged instructor absence, such as those due to illness. There's general agreement on the need for such a policy, but no details have yet been determined. I'm optimistic about the direction of these discussions and will keep you informed as these talks progress. Grammarly. The discussion regarding acquisition of Grammarly licenses for students is ongoing. As a result, the EFSEC voted last week to form a small committee comprised of stakeholders that would include representatives from the Office of Academic Affairs, Student Affairs, and the faculty. I would like to ask you, Senators, to nominate or self-nominate faculty who would want to be part of this committee, which will aim to develop policies for students to use AI in their assignments. Please email me directly by March 25th, so by next Monday, with suggested names. We'd like to form this committee as quickly as we can, and we hope that they will just meet a few times and come up with a plan with some guardrails in place. Safety on campus. As we approach the last half of the spring semester, we're all no doubt aware that this can be a stressful time for students and faculty. If you encounter any concerns with struggling students, be sure to report them to LSU Cares. I'd like to also encourage you to download the LSU Shield app and be sure that it is readily accessible on your phone. Mine is right on the first screen, so make sure you don't have to do 10 times to get to it. It's a very useful app, and I want to make sure that everybody's aware of it. Other useful resources for remaining safe on campus are available on the Stay Safe at LSU website. These are all hyperlinked on my emailed version of my report, so please just be sure to click on them and you'll be directly taken to them. Finally, a couple of more things. International visitors policy. Academic Affairs has implementing a new reporting requirement for international visitors following consultation with the Faculty Senate Ad Hoc Policy Committee and EFSEC. Under the new policy, an international visitor is defined as an individual who, 1, is not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, 2, is not an LSU employee or student, and 3, will be on campus longer than 28 days. Unit heads of the host unit shall notify the Office of International Programs of these visitors using the web form available in the version that I sent you at least 1 week prior to the beginning of the visit. Additional details of the policy are also available at that website, and questions about the new policy can be submitted via email noted in my emailed version of the report. The Faculty Council meeting, as I noted last time, is scheduled for Monday, April 22nd from 3 to 4 p.m. at the Royal Cotillion Ballroom, Student Union. There is a link on my emailed version of the report for registration. We will be sure to send this link to the broadcast email that will be sent out later this week to all faculty, but please share this information with your colleagues in your respective units. We really want to make quorum this year, please, so we can approve the Constitution and this, and just be sure that we have enough people in the room. So please spread the word. I would really, really appreciate that. Please continue keeping us informed about pressing matters and issues on campus. We are stronger together. Are there any comments or questions about my report? Okay, wonderful. So our next agenda item is the ASH proposal from graduate school grade policy change. I just need to explain this. This matter remains on the table following our last meeting. Should the Senate wish to take it up, we have included this on the agenda in order to remain compliant with open meetings law. However, the sponsor of the original proposal has requested that it be allowed to expire while he works on an alternate proposal to be presented at a later time. The easiest way to accomplish this is by doing nothing. So we're just gonna stare at this, and then we're gonna move to the next slide. I think we stared enough. Okay, I'm just gonna. I'd like to invite Carmela Mata, the chair of Nominating Committee, to say a few words about our nominees for this year. Carmela.
Thank you very much, President. My name is Carmela Maxa, Associate Professor in the Department of World Languages, Literatures, and Cultures, College of Humanities and Social Science, where I also serve as the interim Spanish language coordinator. On February 26, I was appointed by the President of the Faculty Senate to chair this year's Nominating Committee, whose members are Dr. Molly Redfield, Assistant Professor of Jazz Studies in the School of Music, College of Music and Dramatic Arts. Dr. Matthew Hyatt, Associate Professor in the Department of Oceanography and Coastal Sciences, College of the Coast and Environment. And Dr. James Madden, the Patricia Hewlett-Bodin Distinguished Professor of Mathematics, College of Science. On behalf of the Nominating Committee, this afternoon, I am here to announce the nomination of Dr. Daniel Chirone, Associate Professor, Department of Political Science, College of Humanities and Social Sciences, for the position of President of the Faculty Senate. Dr. Parampreet Singh, Professor of Physics, Department of Physics and Astronomy, College of Science, for the position of Vice President of the Faculty Senate. Dr. Kevin Ringelman, Associate Professor, School of Renewable Natural Resources, College of Agriculture, for the position of Secretary. For the position of members at large, we have 3 candidates. Dr. Kyla Kasachek, Associate Professor of Costume Technology, School of Theater, College of Music and Dramatic Arts. Dr. James Madden, the Patricia Hewlett-Bodin Distinguished Professor of Mathematics, College of Science. Dr. Michelle Osborne, Associate Professor, Department of Comparative Biomedical Sciences, School of Veterinary Medicine. Finally, the nominating committee wants to remind the senators that we will be taking floor nominations on April the 10th. Our deepest gratitude to each of the nominees. Learning of your desire to serve our university is very inspirational.
Okay, so just to reiterate what Dr. Matza said, nominations are open today through next meeting, and we will be taking nominations from the floor. We are also happy to take nominations from the floor today in addition. So if anyone wants to nominate someone or self-nominate. Nobody wants to make eye contact. Please, in the meantime, between now and April 11th, please send your nominations if you're so moved to the nominating committee, Carmela Matza and or her colleagues. And the elections will be held at the next Faculty Senate meeting on April 11th. So thank you so much, Carmela. Okay, we're going to move on to our new business, and I'd like to invite John Snow, the chair of the policy committee, to talk about proposed revisions to PS 22 and PS 36T and PS 36NT.
Hello, and hello, everybody, and thank you, Inessa. It's my privilege to address you for the second time as the chair of the Faculty Senate Ad Hoc Policy Committee. This is our second year of operation, and I served on a similar committee, being still relatively new to LSU, and I served on a similar committee at my old university. So the Policy Committee advises the Faculty Senate Executive Committee on, guess what, matters of policy, and offload some of that work from them. And so we're a broad committee across a bunch of different parts of the university, and we deal with matters big and small that come before the Senate, so that the Senate can always be sure that it's been looked at before pretty thoroughly before it comes to the floor. With this is a process where we're primarily involved with policy statements, but we've also tended to other matters as well. And we are a full service committee if you have policy concerns. We call this tending the garden. Okay, so the particular matter that is before us today, two things. The first is the student absence from class policy, PS 22. I'm sure that everybody in this room is familiar with this policy. The staff senate reached out to us with a concern that there were essentially blind spots in PS 22 that in a particular case resulted in a less than perfect outcome for a student, but also that these things probably should be recognized in the policy because the policy reflects our values, right? And so we agreed with that. And so we decided that minor changes to PS 22 would better reflect what we wanted to say. And so what we came up with, the particular thing was a staff member who was also a student who needed to attend a professional meeting as part of their work as staff. And that wasn't reflected in PS 22. And so they didn't get the absence excused. Not totally the end of the world, but we thought that these simple changes would fix it. So under valid reasons for absences, we would include participation in scholarly conferences as a separate item and include unexpected professional obligations of students who are LSU staff as another item. And this would certainly take care of this particular instance, but it also validate within the policy are feeling that the university strongly supports student attendance at scholarly conferences and also LSU staff taking LSU courses. So, so that's the first set of changes. And I'll leave to the executive committee how we proceed with those. Looks like we're going to have a couple of motions, but we'll deal with that in a second.
John,
John.
let's do PS 22 now.
Yeah,
So
we'll do
do
PS
that
20.
motion. Yeah.
Oh, you want to do that first?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, so in that case, I guess we need a motion. I guess the motion would be from the committee to adopt these changes in PS 22.
If you want to just
Go with
state,
that?
yeah, just say you, the policy or the policy committee moves to make the following changes, state it, and that'll then set us into discussion.
Okay, so the policy committee moves to adopt these changes. As I just said, add 2 items: participation in scholarly conferences and unexpected professional obligations. Guess I need a second.
No, it's already seconded because it's coming out of
Coming out of committee.
committee
Mhm.
and it's now discussion.
Okay, do we hear discussion on this point? Hearing none?
Actually,
I'm
there's.
sorry, in the back.
Please wait for the. Please wait for the mic. Yeah.
I guess I was just curious about the committee discussion. Clearly, the validity of an absence for a scholarly conference makes sense, but we have a lot of students that work. And it seems like by potentially adding unexpected obligations for staff of LSU, we're privileging their job commitment over those of other students who may be, I don't know, waitresses or employed in industry. So I just wonder, I assume this came up and kind of the motivating for this, and also how a conference is a clear commitment or rule. Unexpected obligations with work seem like they come up nearly daily. So how did you guys anticipate that this rule would be managed? Thank you.
Yeah, so, so just to repeat the question, everybody, lots of students work and lots of them have unexpected obligations come up because of their work. And so why do we privilege students who are also LSU staff over others? And and we did discuss this extensively in the committee meeting. Our conclusion was the interest in doing so comes from the university. The university has an interest in getting its business done. And the one hand of the university shouldn't slap the other one on the wrist just for getting business done, if you see what I'm saying. And because otherwise it makes it difficult, particularly students who are full-time employees, and then all of a sudden something's burning and they don't get excused from their coursework. The university clearly has an interest in making that happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess it makes sense that we've decided to balance the equity of university business over their student coursework, which
And-
is, I mean, I guess that's the decision.
And this is why we added the term unexpected, right? Unexpected. Of course, nobody would sign up for a course when they know it's during their work hours and they can't get the time off, and then they can't go to the class, and then they would expect it to be excused. That's sort of like an edge case. But the one could take a course in total good faith and then suddenly, I don't know, the air conditioning that you're responsible for in the building goes out and you have to miss class to get it fixed. You see what I'm saying? Okay, do we have other discussion? I have another in the back there. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed. All right, go ahead. It's all right.
This is, I think, in some ways, just simply to echo my colleague in the back. the rationale that you just described is hard for me to understand. We have a lot of students in our program who work for the state of Louisiana or work for East Baton Rouge Parish or things like that. And if it's a balance of responsibility, seems to me that, we could extend that logic pretty far into other responsibilities that our students have, especially our students in professional programs. And then the other side is the ambiguity of unexpected and obligations, and how we would document something like that, or what we would be asking students to demonstrate or prove to show that this was a valid absence. That I agree that participation in scholarly conferences, that's something that they would presumably have let us know about well in advance. But the problem here is that unexpected professional obligations seems a little bit loose, and it does privilege a small group of our students in ways that I don't think is fair to other students who are also working full time.
Mhm.
Just a comment about that.
I understand that criticism. But and I would say that my response would be the same that I just stated, that it's sort of the university's interest to get to keep operations here rolling without interfering with itself. Oh, there was another in the back.
I think there needs to be put in some provisions for the participation in scholarly conferences. I recently had an undergraduate student doing a research project with me, and she submitted the same abstract to 8 conferences without me knowing about any of those. So she's asking for grant support from me and other places she could go to help her go to those conferences, and they're just all over the place. So she's going to miss a lot of classes if she got funded for those travels. So there has to be a provision that these conferences needs to be approved by the research mentors, or it has to be approved.
Okay, thanks very much. Oh, this actually, your comment actually digs up a general weakness of PS 22, that there's no place in PS 22 where it says how many absences are too many absences. And somehow the university has survived this far without imploding from too many absences. And so I'm not sure, right, so the specific case you're talking about, that must be, I mean, I'm kind of impressed by the student who submitted so many abstracts, but if they're spending all their time going to conferences, it seems like it's a matter of common sense that they have to balance that against their academic schedule. We have another comment down front. What we don't want to do is overprescribe, and that, because that's a slippery slope. When you start putting too many details on things, that's when policies can start going haywire.
I agree about the risk of overprescribing. I have concerns with PS 22 in general because I feel that it ties the hands of faculty in our ability to exercise our own judicious judgment over when a student is abusing our good faith and trust in them and when they're not. And so I'm reluctant to add any new clauses to PS 22 because I feel that all they do is tie the hands of faculty. So it seems to me that one of the common denominator underlying all of the comments here is simply that with every new clause that we might add to PS 22, there are a few dozen exceptional cases that will open the door to in which professors' hands will be tied and will feel the need to excuse an absence that really doesn't deserve to be excused.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. We've all been there, right? People come with, how shall I say, lame excuses. And then they say, well, under what I almost have never heard before is people reading PS 22, maybe they do this, and looking for loopholes that they can use against the professor to get a, in fact, I'd say 99% of students have never heard of PS 22, and you have to tell them. And so in that sense, PS 22 is useful to us because it says, well, look, here are these 10 categories of things that you can be excused for, and what you're saying isn't one of them. And that's mostly the way that students and I have interacted with PS 22 thus far. So I'd say it's actually the opposite. PS 22 is kind of a good tool for us. Well, yeah, you may be right. Yeah.
I hope I can say something as well. I think PS22 already has it in there. It's under age. First, let me read it. It's saying varsity athletic and other events in which the student is representing the university in an official capacity. That would be somebody that is from LSU going to a conference or going to, doing something professional. So I think it's already in there.
Our understanding is that we primarily applied to sporting events. So
That doesn't say sporting events, it says varsity athletic and other events. So other events, I mean, you can interpret it as only varsity, but I would not interpret it. It's that it says clearly student is representing the university in an official capacity. But
Right.
I mean,
And-
just let you know.
yeah, okay, I never thought of it that way. I thought that clause applied was basically for athletics. And so that's what do you is there any other discussion on that topic? Yes, please.
Just wait for the mic because.
Oh, sorry. We can look at the text.
The problem was that even under the current parameters, the faculty member did forgive it, so staff wanted clarification on that.
Hmm.
I think what we need is to define who is that LSU student, who is a staff member. Because we have students who are working 8 hours on campus, but we also have staff who are now also students. So we have different students, and that is the problem. And then we have undergraduate students and graduate students. So we need to, if we want to include that clause, we need to think clearly who is that LSU student staff.
Yeah, so the point of this is, I would say, although it doesn't say it, primarily for staff members who are students and undergraduate students who are staff members. Typically, they're not permanent staff members. Typically, they're working for the university for a semester or something, but that's not in there, right? That's maybe it needs to be. Is there more discussion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just go on to vote. So yay for to accept these changes, nay, not to accept, and then abstentions. So
Mhm.
all those in favor to accept the changes to PS 22, please say aye. All, should we just,
See against.
yeah, all those against say nay. Rising vote. Okay, so all those in favor, please stand up and we'll just count you. Sorry. We're just counting. Favor for changes to PS 22.
7.
No, S is,
S is.
S is, yeah, okay. Please
Okay.
sit down. All those against, please stand up.
Okay.
Okay. Remain standing or?
Fact-
No, that's okay.
No, thank you. You can't. Do we even do abstentions or? Okay, so it looks like the nays have it and it will not pass. So the PS 22 language will remain as is without those changes.
Mhm. So should we refer the question back to committee or
No,
should
it's
we just
done.
let it?
it's done.
Okay.
It's done.
All right. Our next point of business is PS 36, which everybody is familiar with. But I'll put their titles up here anyway. PS 36 T and NT. The issue that came before the committee. Hang on. We start here. Right, and these are our academic promotion and tenure documents. The issue that came before the committee, and this has already been in front of the faculty senate before at a previous meeting, was that in certain departments, online teaching was not counted towards the teaching in their annual evaluation, but instead towards service. And then part of that came down to, well, is online teaching actually teaching? Or when is online teaching actually teaching? I think in very simple cases, it's very clear online teaching is teaching. I'm teaching a class on Zoom. It's just the same as if I'm teaching it in person. But there were edge cases to consider, particularly because in this world, there's such a thing as third-party courses that can be purchased from outside, and whether if you say online teaching is always to be counted towards teaching, then it would be possible for somebody to, or a department to purchase an outside course, and then the person who taught it would be counted for purposes of PS 36 as having actually taught a course. And I think most people would agree that there's a line that you can draw someplace where you either contributed sufficiently to that course to call it your own or not. And we spent a lot of time consulting around the university and consulting with each other. And so we came up with a definition, and we thought, and we decided we could incorporate that in PS 36 by adding the following text. And in these passages, PS 36 and T and NT are identical. And so the wording change would be identical for both texts. And so let me read this. In this second paragraph in section D.2 teaching in both PS 36T and PS 36NT, add the following text. So we would strike the entire second paragraph, which doesn't actually say a whole lot except what's a good course. And then in its place, we would add activities which contribute to the teaching mission are to be determined by the faculty of the relevant department. In the absence of a defined policy adopted by the department faculty, contributions to the teaching mission must include substantial intellectual contributions by the faculty member. In general, simply presenting courses principally developed by others without substantive addition or revision by the instructor will not qualify as an individual faculty member's contribution to the teaching mission. Okay? And so by this, we mean the common sense definition of what a course is. If you teach a course and you present it to students, then you have taught a course. And then we simply add in two places and online, both for the definition of study abroad and international study to make it clear that online teaching is teaching. And so by this, we've defined what a course is. And that way, that leaves the bright dividing line between having taught a course, like did I buy this course from Pearson, then it's not really my course to take credit for, or is this MyCan course that I developed, and I'm teaching it asynchronously online. It seems like that is my course to take credit for. And so this is what we were trying to codify. And the important thing is that it's up to each individual department to define this. If they would prefer to be able to do it a different way, or to define these things in a way that's convenable to them. And we're simply making default language that would apply throughout the university. Okay, so with that discussion, do we have discussion on this topic? I see in the back on the right.
Hi, Matt Hyatt, Coast and Environment. My concern is about the final sentence for the ad portion. In general, simply presenting courses principally developed by others. That part is what's a little concerning to me. For example, we teach, just to illustrate an example of where this could be problematic, is we teach a entry-level oceanography course that's widely taken by general ed students around the campus, and that the course material in that is kind of decided on a college level.
Mhm.
And that is others. So if I were to teach that course, I would just teach it. And by this definition, that teaching would not count towards, my tenure process, for example. I just got tenure, so I'm not too worried about that anymore. But that's an example of where this would preclude that. So I think the language in that final sentence is potentially problematic.
Okay, so thank you very much. The intention with that language is exactly to accommodate the case that you're, the type of case that you're discussing. Because by you standing up, whether it's standing up at the podium or standing up at the on Zoom, you're the principal point of contact for the student. The course is passing through your intellect. The way you describe it, the words you use are different from how everybody else interprets that course. Now, if you're just answering emails for a student and it's an online course that your colleague developed, then that might be a gray area under this policy is written. Then it would be up to your department to bless this course as, yes, this course as we teach it is applicable for promotion, tenure, evaluation, and so forth.
I agree in spirit, but I still beg to differ in that the interpretation, one could interpret that last sentence to mean exactly the opposite of what you just said, because it says developed by others. Now, if you just struck that sentence completely from the request, from the proposed additions, I actually feel like it captures the spirit of what you just described more, because it's more general. It simply says that you intellectually contributed to the course. By adding that final caveat, it kind of precludes some situations that are actually fairly common on campus for in-person teaching.
So if you're in-person teaching, once again, you may be, everybody uses a book, right? Or at least most people do still these days. Everybody uses material developed by others. There's no question about that. And so it's not the fact that if you have one drop of somebody else's material in your course that you can't take credit for it. The point is that you're doing the teaching, then it's your course and you get credit for it. But if all you're doing is answering students' emails, that's a different matter. And then it would be up to the department to say, this is okay with us. This is our standard of conduct. This is our standard of providing an instruction. Next door there.
Hi, Thomas Douthit, Environmental Sciences. I guess I have a question and then maybe would like to move to propose some slightly amended language. I guess the first question is the problem, could there be a problem where if someone can be the instructor of record and then that's being assigned to them as service by the department? So how would one have a limit, or so there could be a situation where somebody has a substantial workload administering courses as an instructor, but it's just required, it's just credited as service, but not their teaching load. Is that possible?
So I know of, we have this also in my department, and I think that would be, I don't think that would be, sure. I also have been instructor of record on 14 lab sections, and but I don't think that would mean that well, in the end, usually I'm responsible for those lab sections in some way, even though they're taught by a TA. And so that probably does count in some way, although it never counted for me, but it's okay. I don't mind. I got tenure anyway. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, that was my question. I mean, I think your answer addressed it. And the potential issues involved with not crediting
Yeah,
instructors for teaching. And
I don't think this affects that particular thing at all.
maybe for, so I guess what if we just said, we change the language of the last center that the instructor will not qualify as an individual faculty member's contribution to teach mission if these are simply presenting online course materials principally developed by others?
So is this a motion to
Yes,
wordsmith the document?
yes.
Um,
I'm roofing if it doesn't get crazy, so.
Yeah, let's keep it minimal.
yeah, exactly. Wordsmithing the document on the Senate floor is not a productive use of Senate time.
But it's
Right.
just striking the second sentence.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a simple strike and insert or a simple striking of a sentence, certainly we can do that. We do want to avoid the situation we've ended up in before where we have multiple motions to amend. If it looks like it is becoming overly involved, then we can refer back to committee. But if you'd like to make a motion to amend, right, we can, deal with those fairly that we can deal with fairly quickly. Certainly that would be in order. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he didn't move yet. Anything? How can he amend or coordinate?
Yeah.
Can you actually?
Oh,
John?
okay.
How about?
So Leah, let me see if I can.
So the main motion, on the floor is to adopt these changes. There is a motion to amend to insert the word online. And Tom, where would you like the word online to be inserted, as I understand it?
Here.
Online courses?
I think there has to be.
Can I, can I also
Like that.
maybe suggest a different version, which
Well,
it just says strike the simply presenting and just say coordinating.
no, so we do have to deal with the motion as
As
Tom, I do believe your motion is to insert online, simply presenting online courses principally developed. Is that the motion? Okay, so that is the current motion to amend, is to insert the word online in between presenting and courses. So that would read, in general, simply presenting courses is currently the motion that is now on the floor. So any discussion must pertain to that, or there can be a secondary amendment to amend the primary motion to amend.
Okay, so we need to have discussion.
We need to have discussion on Tom's motion to insert the word online following presenting and before courses.
Okay, discussion on the motion to insert the word online. Do we?
Can I,
Yeah.
You may.
do that.
Yep. Okay, the question has been called on the motion to amend by inserting the word online following presenting and before courses. All those in favor? I'm sorry, all those in favor of calling the question on that. We need a 2/3 vote to end debate and proceed to the vote on that motion. So if you are in favor of concluding debate, please say aye. If you are opposed, say nay. All right, the motion carries. We will now proceed to the vote on the motion to amend. The current motion is to insert the word online following presenting and before courses. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, the nays have it. The motion fails. The current motion is once again back to the motion of the policy committee to adopt the recommendations as proposed. Comment in the front, and then we will get to Scott in the back. Okay, so there is a move to strike the sentence. Okay, so the motion is to amend by striking the sentence beginning in general, simply presenting courses. Is there a second to the motion to amend? There is a second to the motion. Any discussion? Okay, actually, I believe that if there is no discussion, we may proceed directly to a vote. So assuming there is no further discussion. All right, no further discussion. The motion to amend is now up for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend by striking the sentence beginning in general, simply presenting. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. All right, the ayes have it. So the paragraph is now revised. The sentence beginning in general, simply presenting courses principally developed, has been struck. The rest of the text is unchanged, and the main motion now includes the text without in general simply presenting courses. We return to debate on the main motion.
So that was my amendment. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Have
We have discussion.
discussion here down on the aisle.
Oh, that was great.
Hello, Ingmar Schögel from Mechanical Engineering. I have a follow-up question to your case that you stated for the instructor of record, because I frankly don't see a difference between answering emails and being responsible for the course grade and being an instructor of record and being responsible for the course grade. So I have some concerns here that this will punish some established categories, whereas favoring others.
So the important, my response to that would be the important thing would be for, if there's a concern about that, for a department to have an explicit policy regarding what counts and what doesn't for what. And so all we're doing here is establishing a default policy so that people can say, well, okay, when in doubt, online courses developed by my buddy at another university don't necessarily count towards my tenure, but a online course that I developed would. Right? That's does that make sense? But if you're instructor of record and you're responsible for 7 lab sections, that wouldn't count towards your teaching normally anyway. I'm not sure where that counts. Like I said, never did for me. Okay, does that make sense? And departments are absolutely free to regulate that how they want, as they were previously in the past. And so, because everybody has to follow the standards of their individual profession and discipline.
So,
Okay.
hi, Rosemary Peters-Hill from French Studies. I have 3 things. This is much improved without that final sentence, so thank you. But a couple of things. So some of this was taken care of already, but I teach in the French department where we have 4 skills courses that are departmentally regulated, and they are the same course material across the sections with different instructors in each section. So these were developed 25 years ago. By the standard of what you had proposed, that would mean nobody gets teaching credit for those courses because we are individual bodies in a classroom presenting material. Okay, so that part I think has been dealt with. The case that this troubles me here is that activities which contribute to the teaching mission are to be determined by the faculty of the relevant department. And it strikes me that there are cases where the department administration might have bad relations with the faculty member in question, or where there's a history of hostility or animosity or something. And so why should this be left to the department to regulate? This should be in the person's contract so that they are protected in terms of what their teaching requirement is. That's my comment.
I think that contractual matters go beyond what the faculty senate can actually, or even a PS can actually regulate. They're,
well, then I think we're trying to regulate it in the text that you have under the first ad, that activities should be determined by the faculty of the relevant department.
So the faculty of the relevant department includes us, right? And so so you bring a motion in your faculty and say, okay, we're clarifying this case of instructors teaching French 2, or 1 through 4, and it becomes an official department policy. The department chair is not there to impose policies like that. He's there, as long as they're a chair and not a head, they're, it's actually better if it comes from the faculty and
Right,
not
but see,
from-
that's not how our
Right.
courses work. Everything that we propose has to go through the CAPI committee. It has to get approved at multiple levels before getting anchored in the course catalog as a course.
Which
So
is-
we cannot change how a course is defined or, or listed.
Right, exactly. And so the department only has to specify how that teaching is credited in a policy, and it's completely in compliance. And then it overrides, the department's action overrides this language, because this only establishes a default.
It seems dangerous to me to have a department's language be able to override language from a PS. Especially in a case of
Sure.
tenure track.
There are many instances in which department policies can, in which you can establish a default procedure and have it overridable by a department. Many departments don't have bylaws.
Yep. But
And
I mean, the PS
Right.
policy statements are over the department bylaws, right? I mean, these are university documents, so a department's decisions cannot countermand.
except that
Policy
we
statement.
explicitly say that they can be, which is what we do here.
I don't think they should be able to say explicitly that they can.
If I can just sort of jump in, I mean, part of this is that the authority to adjudicate the quality of the faculty's contribution is already devolved to the faculty of that department in the following paragraph. So essentially what this addition is seeking to do is to clarify that the parameters by which teaching will be evaluated should be determined in advance, either by the faculty of the department or, if in the absence of such a stated policy, with regards to the policy as stipulated here. We're not adding any authority to faculty the faculty do not already possess in terms of the evaluation of the quality of faculty teaching. We're just trying to bring clarity to say it's for the faculty to determine. And if you're teaching a course of this nature, how is it going to be credited when it comes time for promotion, annual review, things like that? Because that is where the ambiguity has arisen in the current context.
So, for example, there are a number of things that we do that aren't automatically credited under PS 36. So, for example, my department, we're expected to give field trips, right? But nowhere in PS 36 does it say that a field trip is actually creditable under PS 36 towards my promotion and tenure. It's just something we do. And it's always possible for the department to step in and say, yes, teaching field trips is in fact creditable evidence of teaching under PS 36. It's important for faculty to, in their promotion and tenure, department promotion and tenure policy, to define those shades of gray. I can name a few more, but I won't in the interests of time.
So if I understand, if
Right.
I understand correctly, the purpose of this modification to 36 and 36 NT is that online teaching was not being handled in a standard way, or mostly standard way.
That's exactly the point.
So I'm not sure that this improves the situation very much in that case. Because what you're saying is that these activities are to be determined by the relevant faculty in the department, which presumably is exactly how you got to the situation where in some cases it was being handled as service and in some cases it was being handled as teaching. And from what I gather, what's being struck is the sentence, characteristics of an excellent teacher include, and then it lists some pretty clear characteristics, which as a department chair, I could turn to in developing my whatever bylaws or policy within my department and say, these are the things that are considered excellent teachers, but we're now striking that and replacing it with this activities which contribute to the teaching mission are to be determined by the faculty, which is what's going on right now. In the absence of a defined policy adopted by the department faculty, contributions to the teaching mission must include substantial intellectual contributions by the faculty member, which seems a bit circular. So I guess what I'm asking is, does this really address the problem of online teaching being handled in various ways by different departments, when in fact it's just inviting departments to determine how they want to handle online teaching?
So my understanding of the particular case that arose was that individual chairs were making decisions for their departments, and that those decisions were not arising from the faculty of the department, but were being made by chairs. And so, if anything, what this statement does is empower the faculty to decide for themselves what constitutes a contribution to teaching in the department, and not have it imposed upon them by their.
But doesn't the paragraph, if teaching is a part of the department's mission, then in every case for appointment, reappointment, or promotion, it is the responsibility of the appropriate group of faculty to arrive at a judgment as to the quality of the candidate's teaching? So you're saying that that's not sufficient. What we need to do is add the importance of departments developing policies that define what an activity that contributes to the teaching mission is.
Many departments have a promotion and tenure policy where
Right.
exactly such questions are asked and answered.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, so what is this change actually substantively giving us?
So the point of this change is to add hybrid and online to teaching, so that, and so we can get tangled up in the first part, but the point of what we're doing is those second two statements where we're adding and online and hybrid, so that it's clear that hybrid and online teaching are teaching and not service. So
Understood. So but we're talking right now about the strike and then the add, the first two bullet points. I understand that the other part of it is to add hybrid or online, like those phrases in there. But we're also striking a pretty substantial part of PS 36T, which defines what excellence in teaching is, and replacing it with this statement. And I'm questioning the validity of doing that.
Okay. The questioning the validity of striking that wording, which, fair enough, that wording seemed to us to be actually pretty vague. And so maybe it wasn't within our purview to strike it. I would accept that. Maybe we shouldn't have done it.
Gerald Baumgartner, computer science. I think what a lot of the discussion here is about is what exactly does hybrid and online mean? And with same thing, the sentences was struck, what exactly does it mean? So I can imagine a course where somebody else develops the syllabus, develops sample assignments, but then the presentation is still in person in the classroom, which would I assume would be the case for example, for a French course. But on the other extreme, we could have a course that's 100% web-based with videos that are from a third-party provider, assignments that are from a third-party provider, grading that is fully automated from a third-party provider, and then all the faculty member does is answer to half a dozen emails that come up throughout the course. So there's a very wide range of what online teaching could mean. It could range from being there in person for every class period in front of Zoom, or it could mean just occasionally responding to email. And I'm not convinced that this modification here specifies this clearly enough, and in the absence of clearly defined departmental policies, what departments might do is just fall back on PS 36, and then if the department hasn't carefully specified that, then it's again up to the chair to say, well, that didn't really count towards teaching, that was just service.
Well, so thank you very much, because you just very eloquently, more eloquently than I did, explained the case for the sentence that we struck. That's why we added that sentence. But obviously, we obviously decided.
But even with the sentence that was struck, it was, I think it was up to interpretation of what exactly it meant to have a contribution to this. Like in case where the syllabus and the course structure, the assignment, the textbook, everything is specified. In case of French, some departments might then view, no, there's no contribution anymore.
Right, which is why it would be up to the faculty then to have a department policy that says, yes, even though so personally, I don't think that those things are contradictory. Because still, you're the instructor, you're standing up in front of students, you're telling them the difference between the simple past and the imperfect, right? You're still, if you're doing the teaching, then you've done teaching for PS 36. Right? Does that make sense? Whereas so the current situation, it was a problem because there was no place in PS 36 did it say that online teaching is teaching. And so this is why we added this verbiage.
Certainly.
Yes. So wait, but we need the mic.
I'd like to move that we unstrike, I don't know if that's the correct phrase, Dan, you'll know, strike the existing paragraph and then actually strike the add. Keep the and hybrid or online provision that's added in there. And if this is all about just making sure that people recognize that hybrid and online teaching is actually teaching, and then it's leaving it up to the departments to make determinations about what quality teaching is, then just go ahead and add and hybrid or online, and then don't make any other changes that are trying to determine exactly what it is we mean by good online teaching.
Okay.
Unstrike the strike, strike the add. It's the first add.
So
wait,
The original language, exactly. Keep the original language of this section D2 and just add and hybrid or online in the places that have been defined here.
so the motion is to strike the language that says strike the existing second paragraph, strike the add, which adds the following text in place of the paragraph which was proposed to be struck, and retain add and hybrid or online, and then also the following clause, which is strike the and proceeding at international locations. So essentially, the motion is to amend the motion to remove the first two clauses and retain the last two clauses. Sure. I just want to make sure I have it straight. So is there a second to the motion? All right, the motion has been seconded. We shall proceed to discussion. The motion is to strike the first two clauses, retain the final two clauses. Discussion. Scott.
Oh, wait.
So we've been also talking about this, but just up here, and that's exactly the same conclusion we came to. So yay for Roy's amendment.
All right, so we have a vote for the good guys. All right. Other discussion? Sure. No, all right, hearing no further discussion, are we ready to proceed to the vote? All right, so we shall proceed to the vote on the motion to amend the main motion. The motion is now to amend the main motion by striking the first two clauses, retaining the final two clauses. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. All right, the ayes have it. So we will now proceed to discussion on the main motion as amended. The main motion is now to add and hybrid or online following study abroad in item 1 in section D2A, illustrative examples of teaching contributions in PS 36T and PS 36NT, and to strike the and proceeding at international locations and add comma and hybrid or online following locations and institutions in item 9 in section D2A, illustrative examples of teaching contributions in PS 36T and PS 36NT. That is the motion. Is there any further discussion? Sure, we are in discussion on the motion, so yeah.
There's tons of people who are NT that
Mhm.
only are promoted based on teaching online. Right? So people know that, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay,
Of course.
I'm not sure because it sounds like just so you're good, John, because it's going to be deferred to the unit.
No, that has been struck. So the current
That is
language
crazy. Okay.
right now, all that will happen, John, I'm sorry, can you pull up the other
No.
document?
Yeah.
So just to show you what the totality of the changes will be if the motion is adopted as proposed.
So you can find this here.
I guess my point is that NT and T are two different things.
But
So-
they are identical in this section.
Right. They're identical in this section, but the
Correct.
thing is, a lot of our NT people are promoted based only on their teaching, and they often teach a course that's been developed by somebody else. That's how it's developed online.
Right. So
Right?
the totality
So
of
it
the-
is like that's
Yeah.
you teach a class, you might have developed it. I teach it, I grade it. Anyway.
Yeah, but because of the amendment of the primary motion, anything in that paragraph which was to have been substituted has been struck. So what we're essentially talking about now is adding and hybrid or online to two sections in the policy statement. So it's expanding the scope of teaching, not limiting it.
I'm Jim Madden in Department of Mathematics. I think that maybe a little bit broader revision of item I would be in order. It says classroom instruction, and the way it reads right now, item I reads classroom instruction and the conduct of courses on and off the LSU campus, including study abroad. Now, I don't think that simply adding or hybrid or online at the end of mentioning study abroad is appropriate because that makes those two things afterthoughts that are even less important than study abroad. But these days, it's becoming more and more common that courses should be conducted, in part or entirely in an online format or in some.
I don't see that.
Then the other thing that has come up and I've noticed in the discussion is classroom instruction equivalent to being instructor of record on a course? I think those are two different things. Being the instructor of record or being recognized in the courses, in the LSU courses announcement as the instructor of record is very different from being the instructor of the course. And in many cases, the instructor of record is not the one who delivers the instruction. So I think it would be appropriate to say that classroom instruction, that item 1 includes classroom instruction, as well as instruction that is delivered virtually, online, or in hybrid format.
I'm not sure I understand the distinction you're making.
Let me repeat. The first problem is that in our discussion, we've been equating being instructor of record with delivering classroom instruction.
Which
At
I'm
least
not sure that
implicitly.
that's true, actually, but
You all right, you may not feel that that's true, but that's your interpretation of the discussion.
Mhm.
And my point is that other people, myself, for example, interpret the discussion otherwise. And we should be trying to find language that is interpreted the same way by everybody.
Mhm. No, certainly we all need to be on the same page in order to,
Yeah.
uh, um,
So anyway, so I think there is a distinction that some people make between being instructor of record and delivering classroom instruction.
but being instructor of record is not in this text, right?
I know it's not in the
talking about
text, but that's,
classroom.
I'm not,
instruction,
I realize it's not in the text.
hybrid and online. So
I realize that it's not in the text. Yes.
So we do need to, if we wanted to address that topic, then we should take it back to committee and develop language for that purpose. But it's a different question than the one we were asked. We were asked to incorporate online teaching into PS 36.
My proposal would be simply that we say classroom instruction or instruction that's delivered virtually, online, or in hybrid format.
And is that not just what we've done?
No, because what you've done is put at the end of that, all right, including study abroad or hybrid or, right?
So what you're saying is that the hybrid or online is devalued because it's at the end of the sentence, not at the beginning of the sentence.
Yes.
Jim, to your broader
I
point,
understand. I personally don't agree with it, but that's a change one could make.
I guess, Jim, to your point, it seems like there could be a comma hybrid and online after a bunch of these under section A, right? So direction of independent study, comma, hybrid and online. Like if I'm mentoring a student on Zoom, right, that should probably count as well. So by sticking hybrid and online right after study abroad, it seems to only apply to that A, sub I.
So just to remind folks of the options, we could recommit this to committee with instructions to expand the scope of the committee's deliberations if we are concerned about delineating between instructor of record and instructor. We could have an up or down vote by calling the question on the motion as currently constructed and then revisit the question of delineating between instructor of record and instructor in a separate piece of business that could be introduced later. We could continue the current discussion. We could postpone it indefinitely. We could postpone it to the next meeting. So we do have some options to facilitate us moving forward, just depending on what people feel would be appropriate at this point in time.
Could I make a motion?
Yeah, you certainly may make a motion.
My motion is that we return it to the committee. We ask the committee to continue deliberating and present a revised proposal.
Would you like to add instructions to the motion to return to give the committee some direction as to what you would like them to address in their deliberations?
Yes, I think clarification regarding what is meant by hybrid instruction or online instruction would be useful.
Okay, is that a
I mean,
second?
I'm taking into account what Gerald said.
Sure, is that a second or is that a comment?
Mayank, are you seconding or making a comment?
Okay, well, first let's ascertain whether there's a second for Jim's motion to refer it back to committee and ask the committee to clarify whether there is the distinction between hybrid and online. Is there a second to Senator Madden's motion? Okay, so Dr. Matza has seconded. We will now enter into discussion on the motion to refer. And the discussion can only pertain to the wisdom of referring back to the committee for these purposes. The charge of the committee would be to ask them to review the current provisions, which would be the final two provisions, because the actions we've taken will adhere. So the question is just to send it back to the committee to define what constitutes in-person and online and hybrid in the policy. What?
But it's what you said.
Yeah, that was the instruction.
But it is.
But I mean, we can return it to committee. It's just as helpful to have instructions to the committee from the Senate to give the committee some direction as to what you would like to see the committee recommend on the other end. So if there's a specific issue that you would like to see addressed as the committee deliberates further, it's helpful to add that instruction to the motion to refer. Which is? Right. Right. So what qualifies as online teaching? Right. So that for greater clarification over what differentiates online teaching in different modalities or different structures. That is the motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I think Carmela already seconded.
Carmela, did you? Well, no, is there a second? Do you want to second it? Okay, so it's seconded. So additional discussion on the modified instruction. Hearing no discussion, we're ready to proceed the vote on the motion to refer. All those in favor of the motion to refer with the instruction to ask the committee to get into greater detail about what constitutes online teaching, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
In the opinion of me, the nays have it. The motion fails. We are now back to the discussion on the principal motion, which is to adopt the modified main motion, which is to retain the final two clauses, adding and hybrid and or online, and strike the and proceeding at international locations. Further discussion, or does anyone want to call the question?
I would
Well-
like to propose an amended version of A.I. Because this, I think this is what Jim was just saying a minute ago, that not to define online teaching, but to make the kinds of teaching more equitable. And maybe we do want to define online teaching, but that's not what this was about, right? This amended version of PS 36 TNNT. Okay, so I would reword D.2.A.I as okay. So illustrative examples of teaching, blah, blah. Instruction of an LSU course, whether in person in a classroom, comma, online, comma, or in a hybrid format. Go on to 2 eyes, etc. Nope.
So can
So,
you write that up so we can see it?
all right. Where are we here? In
Item 1.
Yeah.
Item
Under
one.
D.2.A.
Right here.
Oh, here we go.
Mhm.
So say that again.
Okay. So yes, in I, instruction of an LSU course. I like dashes, so I put a dash, whether in person in a classroom, comma, online, comma, or in a hybrid format. And that if, yes, on and off the LSU campus, including study abroad. And then delete hybrid and online at the end.
All right. Like that.
Okay, so probably the easiest way to handle this is a motion to amend by substituting the language that was just proposed for the current language, which says add and hybrid or online. So the motion is to amend through substitution, substituting the sentence that is currently in the document as shown. We have a, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm just no good at
Yeah.
Microsoft Word, sorry.
Oh, enlarge it from the side.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Is this good?
Okay, so the motion is to amend the main motion by substituting the current language which is instruction of an LSU course, whether in person in classroom, online, or in a hybrid format on and off the LSU campus, including study abroad, substituting that for the current, what is now the first clause, add and hybrid or online following study abroad in item 1 in section D2A. Discussion, is there a second on the motion to amend through substitution? All right, any discussion?
This is discussion.
Do we have enough comments?
Another second.
Yeah, Carmela, comment?
Oxford comma, you can have that. One Oxford comma.
I like this, but this is my comment and my recommendation. Whether in person in a classroom, can we use face-to-face? And instead of online, can we use web-based, which is the nomenclatory. Those are the names that the university uses when we have the online, when we have the course catalog. So we should try to adopt the language that the university already has on catalogs and official documents to create that. So class instructions, face-to-face, web-based, hybrid, either on and off the LSU campus, including study abroad, period. Yeah, then exactly. Then we need to, after online, we need to add web-based because we have two different ways of teaching this. What I want is to see the language that we already have here at the university to refer our own classes into the policy.
Did I do that right?
Yeah, whether in person in a classroom is also face-to-face. Yeah.
So there is a secondary motion to amend the primary amendment to insert web-based. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections to the insertion, the assertion carries. The motion or the discussion is on the amendment to substitute this language for the existing language in what is now the first clause. Is there any further discussion? All right, if we have no further discussion, we'll start proceed to the vote. All those in favor of substituting the language as drafted here for the first clause, which is add and hybrid or online, following study abroad. All those in favor of the substitution, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. All right, the ayes have it. So the main motion as amended is now to update PS 36T and NT in the following manner, inserting the language as drafted on the screen and then striking the and preceding at international locations in the original motion. Is there any further discussion on the main motion as amended? Hearing no further discussion, we shall proceed to the vote. The vote is again on the main motion to amend PS 36T and NT in the way stipulated here. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. All right, the main motion carries and PS 36T and NT shall be amended or recommendation is that they shall be amended in the way worked out in the last 45 minutes. So thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Dan, for your masterful parliamentary procedure skills.
Thanks, Sean. That's why I took the course.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're done. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Just going to take a shot of that,
Yeah.
to make sure that we have
Yeah.
the language.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, I'll send you that.
Okay, our first presentation for today is from Faculty Technology Survey. And I'd like to welcome Jackie Bach and Parampreet Singh to make their presentation.
Thanks, Tricia. Hello for the third time on our wonderful EdTech faculty survey. We are happy today to be able to share with you some preliminary results that we know you're going to be very excited to see. Once again, this has been a wonderful collaboration between Academic Affairs, Faculty Senate, NIT. Craig unfortunately is in London today and cannot be with us. So just a reminder, our survey was open from February 5th through February 23rd. We had 658 responses, which is wonderful. So for those of you in this room who took the survey, took the time to answer our 30 questions, we really do appreciate it. 399 people are interested in getting an incentive for their participation. And then we had 153 people volunteer to be part of a focus group. We're not sure what we're going to do with all of those 153 people, but we do want to hear their opinions, and we just need to figure out how we're going to organize that.
Okay, so before we go to the questions and some of the answers, like please remember those incentives will be distributed in the faculty council meeting on April 22nd. 399. It's very close to the quorum, so please come. Okay. Okay, so we have picked like one question each from 5 different categories. And this is where this survey started, thanks to my friend Jim Madden, who came and asked me, like, can we do something about Moodle? So the question was, which of the following best describes your attitude about Moodle? And as we can see, about 47% of respondents say that we want to continue using Moodle in the form that it is in, but we want some improvements as they come forward. 32% of the respondents are neutral about Moodle, and 6% are not satisfied at all. And similarly, 16%, which is kind of the third option, that I think LSU should find an alternative to Moodle. So we are not really sure whether this calls for a change from Moodle, because if it was above 50%, probably like we could have made a recommendation that we should go beyond Moodle, but it seems like 50% of the faculty are kind of happy with the Moodle and any refinements which come to the Moodle. Any suggestions, responses, concerns? Mayank?
Basically didn't want to change because folks don't like to change.
So the comments which we saw, which we discussed, and Jackie, you can elaborate, were like, they were concerned about the change and the cost of change. And
we haven't had time yet to go into all of the comments for the section to sort of figure out what the reasons are and why people chose the answers that they do. But we hope that when we do that, we'll have some better answers for you. Also, one of the things that Craig is doing is he's taking this question and comparing it with other questions. So we can take this question and compare it with the question to how often do you use Moodle, and then make some more, sort of ideas based on that. So what we're sharing with you today is just like, the survey just ended. We don't have really any conclusions yet because we haven't had the time to go into all the comments.
Now I'm giving you like a simple example. I teach like programming languages and all to petroleum engineers. But when we were trying to make a change from like simple software environment like MATLAB to Python, we got changed into Visual Basic, Excel-based macros, because the feedback was so drastic that they would say, we would like to do what, is useful for our students right now in spreadsheets. And that was so, orthogonal to the changes that we were thinking that what everybody else, other universities and other disciplines were doing. So unless and until we make a presentation to our stakeholders that this is what it will do to your work life and why we want to change it, why it should be, useful for our students in terms of learning experience. If we do not have that buy-in, you'll see a resistance like this. It's always a resistance to change.
So Mayank, your comment is really very good. And I think that is where the focus groups can really help. So when we organize these focus groups, these 150 respondents who want to participate, we are going to divide them in different categories, and then we will dissect it more. So we are not making any recommendation today. We'll come back to the Senate in fall with all our summer work done, and then we'll make some study. Okay, so the next question, which we picked up from the adequate training and support section, was, do you feel you have an adequate training and support to effectively use classroom hardware? And the majority answer is yes. We didn't expected any other responses here. How satisfied one is with the availability of educational software at LSU? And this is, I think the reasonable interpretation is we are not. So we need to do a better job on Tigerware, or ITS needs to do a better job in telling everyone, faculty, staff, and students, that these are the software which are available and these are our options, because even Craig realizes, he's not here, but he realizes that many times the software is already there. And even then we are requesting software using IT 100 form and so on. And many times faculty thinks there is a lot of work with filling the IT 100 form when the software already exists somewhere hidden in Tigerware. That needs correction, like ITS realizes this, so we'll work on that. So do you think it is important for faculty to have standard laptop or desktop? I think we can make recommendation today to Provost Haggerty, probably. The answer is overwhelming yes. And the more, for example, the ad hoc FSIT committee goes through the policies, I'm pretty sure those percentages going to steep up to 100%. If we want compliance with IT policies, if we want faculty to do their job better, I think LSU should really look at this point carefully and provide a laptop or desktop to everyone. And not from the departmental funds, from central funds somehow. Okay, so are you satisfied with the current IT support on campus? And overwhelmingly, yes. Well, most of the people are satisfied. This includes departmental TSPs. This includes anyone in the college. It was not a question on ITS itself, but on the broad IT support on the campus. I will leave this question to Jackie.
So as you know, we had a section on AI, and question number 26 was, do you currently see the need to incorporate generative AI in your courses? And I think this is another question that we need to definitely have a discussion as a faculty, because you'll see that the majority of people either answered no or unsure. And I don't know how you all feel about it, but I feel like it's important to think about that in our teaching. So this is another area where we have comments. We're going through the comments and we'll figure out things from there. So finally, here are our next steps. First of all, we're beginning to discuss the results with our different subcommittees, diving into the comments, figuring out what we're going to do. If we see comments, for example, if we see somebody mention a classroom that has like an immediate concern, hopefully that's something we'll be able to take care of quickly and not have to wait on committees to make recommendations. We'll be thinking about how to work with the focus groups, most likely this summer. Our final analysis and recommendations that will come out of that work. And then the fall, we will bring back to you one last time, hopefully, our recommendations from these various stakeholders who have taken the time to look at the survey results. And thank you.
I want to thank again the Param and Jackie and Craig for working so well collaboratively to make this happen. And I really look forward to the fall semester where things will only get better after that. Last, but certainly not least, is the head of ORED, Robert Twilley, who I've invited here. Thank you so much for your patience today, sitting through our amendments. I've asked him to come and speak to the highlights of ORED and all the wonderful things that are happening. So, Robert, thank you so much for being here.
I'll try to wrap this up pretty quickly. One comment as I start is that I picked a couple of topics that I thought may be of interest. And as I go through this, though, I really, would entertain more specific questions or updates or highlights that you would like from the research office, and we'd be glad to come back and address those. So I'll just sort of walk through this today. A little background, I'm Robert Twilley. My home department is oceanography and coastal science, and have been here at LSU since 2004. I've been in this position I guess actually in April will be 1 year permanent. So a little 18 months, I guess, total. And before that, I served 9 years as the Louisiana Sea Grant Director, and which was a great honor to serve LSU and the state, actually. Most of you know the research office, our job is to process proposals, have us compliant, make sure that we follow federal and state and regulations and also helping faculty understand the requirements of your sponsors. And this is a really important part of our job, working with you, working with faculty to make sure when proposals are submitted that they do meet the specific requirements. We also, as you'll see, we work quite a bit with managing intellectual property. That's another part of responsibility of our office, as well as research security. And this is becoming, I'll make a few comments about this, more and more involved because of new federal regulations and et cetera. But more importantly, I think, is helping faculty develop their careers. I mean, that's the way we view our office. You pick LSU for your professional career. Large part of that is your research endeavors, and we're here to help. Our office is very service oriented, and we have a great group of individuals who think very mission oriented in serving LSU. And so I think that's something that's important and to embrace as you think about the research office. Obviously, you hear quite a bit, and we're very focused in ORID on the Pentagon research priorities established by President Tate in the Scholarship First agenda. And this is what many of you see when you see that Scholarship First agenda presented and discussed. I also like for you to look at it this way. And I just took this is the internal aspects listings, and you can't see that from the back, but think of the Pentagon priorities as very mission oriented. Those are problems that we're trying to solve. Inside the Pentagon on the right is actually fundamental basic knowledge that goes into any mission oriented research and accomplishments we're trying to achieve as a land grant, sea grant, and space grant university. And as a flagship, we are very focused on solving problems for the state, quality of life, and as expressed in these Pentagon priorities. But again, from quantum research to bioinformatics, natural, social, behavioral sciences, the fundamentals of all of these, as well as creative works and design, which is so important related to our community engagement and our contribution to the quality of life. So you don't see those when you see the Pentagon priorities, but to us, they're there. And so it does take those fundamentals to be focused on problems that you're trying to solve. The other thing that you'll hear quite a bit, you may have seen it in the recent announcement of the framework, the strategic framework that was announced by President Tate and presented to the Board of Supervisors, is aspirations related to research as to what we want to achieve. There's two things that were mentioned. One is to be in the top 50 research expenditures, in the top 50 nationally. And second is aspiration for AAU membership. And I put this up because I want to make sure that, as we discuss that, and there's going to be a lot more discussion in the future on those aspirations related to filling in the details and specifics of the strategic framework, is that even though you're going to hear a lot about research expenditures, and that's because both the AAU and, as you see here, I'm using the top American research universities. Those are the first two bullets: total research expenditures, federal research expenditures. But I want to make sure that it's also appreciated that that's not going to get you into the AAU alone, and it's not going to actually build your reputation as a research university alone. I want to particularly highlight faculty awards. This is something I know that the Provost Office, Office of Academic Affairs, is going to put a lot of focus on. It's something we've discussed quite a bit in the research office, is our recognition of our faculty and what they do and create in their research and the awards that they receive by their peers. This is really important. Also, postdocs. Postdoc appointees, number of PhD students in our graduate program. These are all really important metrics related to a research program. So, I want to highlight that because what I'm going to do is actually quickly talk about research expenditures. But again, because it is something that we are very focused on in ORIB, but not at the exclusion of what is the totality of what builds the reputation of a research university. What I'm going to show you is just a couple of trends. What we did in the ORIS, we took in 2009 in a strategic planning process, there were 16 universities that were selected to be our peer group. These were land grant universities in the South and Midwest. And so we took those 16 universities and we did a little bit of comparison related to LSU. And what you're going to see in the next two slides is where we stand related to those 16 land grant peer group universities. And the first slide I'm going to show you is a trend in blue. That's our peer group in the blue line from 2010 to 2022. These are total research expenditures reported to the National Science Foundation. Purple line is the LSU Baton Rouge campuses. When we report our research expenditures to the National Science Foundation, we include the A&M campus, Pennington, and the Ag Center. Those are the three campuses that are reported as a single number to NSF. The orange line you see there is when you add the health science centers. The reason I'm doing that because, again, you're going to hear more and more about us reporting 5 research campuses instead of just 3, but I'm not going to get into that today. I want you to focus on the blue and the purple. 2010, we were right with our peer group. We were, and the 16 land grant colleges. And over time, we've been flat up to 2022 as our peer group has been increasing at 6 to 8% per year. This is one of the reasons you're going to hear so much about putting emphasis on our research expenditures because of catching up and making some ground back related to what we've lost relative to our peer group. If you look at where we do our research expenditures, the blue again is our peer group. The purple I want you to focus on is the Baton Rouge campus numbers. And you'll notice that in federal government research expenditures, the first set of bars on the left, we're about 50% of our peers in federal research expenditures. We are very equal in state and local government. We're very equal in institutional funds. Those three make up collectively most of the research expenditures for universities. Business, nonprofit, all the other sources don't contribute very much. But now, why such an emphasis on federal research expenditures? The reason is AAU and the top American research universities highlight federal research expenditures as the percent of your total expenditures because that represents competitive research grants. And so that's why our federal composition of our total portfolio of research is a very high priority for us to look at and to think of strategies in the future relative to the aspirations that you're going to see in the strategic planning process. And so what are we doing in our program relative to strengthening our position as a research university? One, again, is focus on research acceleration and ranking. And I won't go into any detail on any one of these, but our federal posture, bringing federal agency leadership down to our campus, because I will tell you when we had an NSF site visit for our NSF fuel, the engines proposal, you get those groups to our campus, they buy it. It is amazing to see what transformation occurs when people see what we're doing when they come to our campus. And so we've had a couple of visits from NOAA administrator and the Undersecretary of Department of Energy, and we're going to continue to work on bringing the federal leadership to our campus to meet our faculty and see what we're doing. LSU research experience. We talk about student success and student experience. We want to talk about the faculty research experience. And actually the survey that you just saw, we're doing a little bit of surveying ourselves, looking at your thoughts and as far as your research experience, what are the issues? What is the software that you dislike? Do you like Go grants? Not like Go grants? What kind of research administration support do you get? All of these are very important to us. How can we improve pre-award and post-award procedures? To us, this is the research experience. And we think it's also important also in faculty retention. Accountability, a lot of this is our centers and institutes as well as other accountability. There's a project we are, as you can see in a second, doing $40 million over the next several years of internal grant programs here at LSU. We're managing an ORED up to $40 million. What's the accountability of what we turn those seed monies and those internal grants into actual productivity? That's part of the research accountability. And then we have to tell our story, outreach and impacts. This is a big part, communicating what we do and our accomplishments. Again, this is faculty recognitions, faculty awards. We have to tell our story. And then last, the one that's not one of my favorites, but it is something that's very important, is compliance and security. And again, in fact, there was one item today you're discussing international visitors. That's a whole new requirement by the federal government on research security. So just again, internal grant programs, this is very exciting. I really hope and faculty will take advantage of this. The Provost Fund for Innovative Research. We have the Big Idea Research Grants. We're in the process of evaluating this year's competition. There are 3 categories. Phase 1, 2, and 3 start out at $25,000 for phase 1, $75,000 for phase 2, and $125,000 for phase 3. So we're in the process of selecting this year's awards. Faculty travel grants, Provost Fund for Research and Creative Activity Support, and then Seminar Collaborative Support Fund, and then finally equipment repair. We're constantly taking feedback from faculty on the distributions and how we are effectively impacting research and creative works here on campus related to these funds. We had a great Provost Fund presentation of the awards this year. If you get a chance when we do this again next year, come out and see the great work that people are doing. But in addition to that, we have Cancer Research Initiative. We did $1 million in research grants. That was something that was done with President Tate. The Institute for Energy Innovation, we're managing about $2.8 million right now. Actually, we awarded $2.8 million. We're managing another request for proposals for $3 million. There's $10 million over 3 years that we plan to invest. A new one that just came out, Our Lady of the Lake Biomedical Research. That RFP was just announced. It's still active. Social determinants of health is a big part of that program. If you're not familiar with this, please go to our website and look for this possibility of funding. And the LCMC cancer research, that one, our RFP is on hold, but we hope to release that in the next year. Again, when I say 40 million, if you add all these up, that's the totality of what we can see invested in our research capacity here at LSU. Unprecedented and extremely exciting. And again, our accountability is we have to turn it into something. Just to give you an example of some highlights in energy, hopefully you've heard about our fuel, our wind, the little purple dot, and then you see the other 9 awards. Just to give you an idea of competitiveness at the federal level, there were 701 letters of intent, and they awarded 10. There were 10 awards, starting out with 701, and we made it through the process and ended up with one of 10 of the awards. $160 million over a 10-year, and that has sent a signal that we are competitive, and that's the intent, to keep that kind of reaction by our community moving forward. And we've also hit in other very competitive programs with our energy program, and I think that's where you're going to see a huge bump in our research expenditures with Department of Energy and in federal overall. So I feel very positive, very pumped up about how we're doing and what you'll see as we move forward in the future. And it takes a great staff to do this. We are so fortunate at this university to have the staff that operates and manages our research office. And I'm sure many of you know these individuals. And you know exactly what I'm talking about relative to their contribution, how dedicated they are to the mission of building our research enterprise. And I'll take any questions. No, it's late.
Any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Robert, so much for being here, and we know where to find you, and I'm sure faculty will be emailing and contacting you. Just a reminder that our next meeting will be back in Dalton Woods Auditorium. Fingers crossed that the roof will be fixed. So our final meeting will be on April 11th at the Dalton Woods Auditorium. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Kathy?
Okay, all those in favor say aye. See you next month. Thank you.
Oh, Kathy. You get all those?
No, I need your help.
Sure.
I'll